Let's take a minute to talk about incentives. That's something that I don't normally do on the channel. I really don't talk pricing all that much. Anytime I do any kind of a video, I'm always like, this is MSRP, and you know, if anything, talk to your local dealer and negotiate your deal. But Sal was so kind to create this kind of a cheat sheet for us with all the incentives that we currently have on the different Chevrolet vehicles. So for instance, if I look at the Tahoe here, 2023, I happen to have one in stock. It's an LS model. It is available. MSRP on this vehicle, I believe, is just over 60. Yes, it is $60,390. And currently your incentives on the Tahoe are basically reduced down to one. There's one incentive. There is a $500 rebate if you are one of the following: college grad, military, healthcare employee, first responder, or an educator. So if you fall into one of those categories, and college grad, by the way, has to be within the last 2 years, you would get $500 off this vehicle. That is the only retail rebate on it right now in the Northeast region for the month of June 2023. If we look into the 2023 Chevrolet Traverse, there is a $1,000 consumer cash. Consumer cash is basically an incentive or a rebate that anyone who purchases the vehicle would qualify for. So you would get $1,000 off, one of these Chevrolet Traverses. Or if you wish to forego that $1,000, you can actually take a finance rate of 1.9%, but it's only for 36 months. Now, the reason I say but it's only for 36 months is because that's a very short term. So depending on what kind of money you're putting down, how much you're financing, that can be a very high payment for somebody, even though it's a very low aggressive rate. Whereas if you took a longer finance, like a 60-month or a 72-month, you're gonna definitely pay higher interest, but because you're spreading it over a longer term, your payment might be more manageable on a monthly basis for you. Now, combined with those two incentives, the $1,000 or the 1.9% financing, you can stack that same $500 incentive we just talked about on the Tahoe for being a college grad, military, healthcare, first responder, or an educator. Now, all the incentives we just talked about on the Chevy Traverse are the same on the Chevrolet Blazer. This is the only one I have in stock at the moment, 2023 2LT model, which somebody must be here test driving and they parked it in a handicap spot, which they probably shouldn't have. We'll get that moved right away. This vehicle here is a Chevrolet Equinox. That's one size down from the Chevy Blazer. Now, this one is actually a fleet vehicle, so it's not available in stock for me to sell. We are actually sold out of the Equinox right now. I don't have any here at my location. We're waiting for more to come in. But if I did have one, you would have the option of either a $1,250 consumer cash incentive or the same 1.9% for 36 months we talked about. And you can stack it with that extra $500 if you fall into one of those 5 categories. Again, college grad, military, healthcare, first responder, or educator. The Equinox, I think, currently is still General Motors' second most popular vehicle, right behind the Silverado as far as sales nationally. So it does make sense that they put a couple extra bucks on it, $250 more than the Blazer and the Traverse. Not a tremendous amount, but it is something. Looking at the Chevrolet Trailblazer 2023, we have no consumer cash, so you can elect to take the 1.9% for 36 months. You can qualify for that $500 incentive for one of those categories we've been talking about throughout this video. But that's it. You know, it's a popular vehicle. It sells well. It's in a good price point already, so GM is not putting a lot of rebate on it. Nor are they putting any kind of rebate money on the new 2024 Chevrolet Trax, the new 23 Colorado, or the 2023 Suburban. We talked about the Tahoe, Suburban, supply and demand. We're sold out, very tough to get. We're not sold out. I actually have one. I have one in the service bay. Sometimes I forget we park vehicles in there. You just kind of slip your mind, you know? Next up is the Silverado, and this is the #1 selling vehicle for General Motors nationwide, and I think you're going to be happy with the rebates that we talk about here in some ways. Now, it's very important that you focus on what engine the vehicle has, because that's going to determine the incentives and the rebates that you qualify for. For instance, a light duty, like a 1500 crew cab without the 2.7 liter, which is the turbo 4-cylinder. So if it has the 5.3 V8 or 6.2, there is no consumer cash, there's no rebate. So work truck, custom, LT2, 2LT, 3LT, LTZ, which is a Premier, or a High Country, without the 2.7 liter, there is zero consumer cash. If it's a 1LT or a RST, you would get $750. If it does have the 2.7 liter turbo and it's a work truck, a custom, or an LT, you would get $1,000. And if it does have the 2.7 liter turbo and it's a custom LT, RST, or 2FL, the 2FL is like this white one right here, you would get $1,750. Those incentives were just on a crew cab. They would be exactly the same as if it was a double cab. Now here's where we add some more things that are stackable. You have a $1,500 trade assistance bonus cash. So the trade-in has to be a 2009 or newer vehicle. It's going to be eligible on the Custom, the LT, the 2FL, and the RST. You also have a $2,500 Chevrolet loyalty cash. So you have to currently own or lease, you have to own a 2009 or newer Chevy or lease a 2018 or newer Chevrolet. You're not required to trade the vehicle in or end the lease or anything like that. It is transferable in the household. So if you have a family member that lives with you that has a vehicle like that, that is going to give you an extra $2,500. So for example, on stock number V230223 here, this white 2FL, you would get the $1,750 consumer cash because this does have the 2.7 liter turbo. If you have a trade-in 2009 or newer, you would get the $1,500 trade assistance. If you had the 2009 or newer Chevrolet vehicle and or 2018 or newer Chevy lease, you would get the $2,500. And then if you were college, military, healthcare, first responder, or educator, you would get the extra $500. So if you qualified for everything, you'd be getting $6,250 off MSRP right off the bat. And then at your dealer, you can negotiate your best deal depending on if that dealership is coming off MSRP, doing buying programs like employee supplier, stuff like that, or maybe they're still charging over MSRP. You know, I really don't know. That's something you'd have to handle with your local Chevrolet store. But $6,250, if you qualify for everything, is a nice set of rebates in today's day and age. Now, for a quick comparison, this vehicle here, this Silverado is an RST model, and Sal was so great to break these down via stock number. So I can tell you, because this is an RST and it has the 5.3 liter V8, it qualifies for 3 incentives. You have the $750 consumer cash, you have the $1,500 trade assistance bonus cash, and you have the $500 college grad, military, healthcare, first responder, or educator incentive. What's funny is he doesn't mention on here whether it would qualify for that Chevrolet loyalty cash. So I'm gonna have to double check that in our system. Our internal VIN incentive management system is really the best way to find the exact rebates for a client, right? So I could take the VIN number from any one of these vehicles, I plug it into the system with your zip code, and then with that, I can basically go down a checklist of all the different incentives that are offered. Now, it's up to us to make sure you qualify for them. So for instance, if we give you $500 because you say you're an educator, like we need a teacher ID, we have to go through a process to get your authorization number, we gotta submit all that and keep it on file for General Motors to prove that you actually did deserve that incentive and you qualified for it. But that's how I'm going to check whether or not the $2,500 Chevrolet loyalty cash is available on that particular RST. And that's pretty much it with our incentives. You know, right now it's a lot different than it was in the past. Obviously, we were still in a supply and demand type world. I had a comment on my last video that somebody was skeptical of my story, saying that auto sales are down and things are you know, horrible and repos are up and all the normal things that you hear from these car guru channels that tell you all about the business and all these things based on national stats. And you know, it might be true nationally, you know, depending on where you're at. Where I'm at in Livingston, New Jersey, last month we didn't have any trouble selling cars. We did great. And you know, this month we're hoping to do just as great. The problem is now we're very light on inventory, so who knows if that'll happen. But what I can tell you with my experience here at my dealership where I work, people were out, people were buying cars. You know, another thing I'd like to touch on real quick, you know, a lot of these channels on YouTube are very negative based, right? So here's what I recommend you do. Go to a channel that you love to watch, right? You click on their channel and then click on the videos tab. So it brings up all the videos that they have and just look at their thumbnails. What do you see? Are those thumbnails primarily a negative topic or a negative appearance, or, you know, talking about something that's in a negative fashion, or are they more of a positive? You know, and quite frankly, what I do on a personal level is if I see negativity and I see that the world is ending and that everything is going, you know, downhill, I tend to avoid those videos. Like, I don't need to be depressed. I don't need to have people put negative thoughts in my mind. I want to focus on the positive stuff. And last month was a perfect example of that. All I did was focus on getting in front of customers, treating them right, helping them out, educating them on the Chevrolet product, providing numbers to them, and selling cars. You know, it was a great experience. And I can only hope that when you watch YouTube and you watch the stuff that you watch, you put that into consideration. You know, if a video was good and it was a positive topic, hit the like button. You know, comment on that video for that YouTuber. Help them out. Help out the people that are putting positive vibes out there versus focusing on the negative topics and the negative ways of doing business and basically just perpetuating the problems that people see in the car business. You know, when it's us against them, it's always this. As a salesperson, what I do is I try to bring you in. You know, here's what I can do for you. Here's what the product is all about. It's up to you to buy it or not. I'm not going to push it down your throat. I'm not going to force you. But what I'm going to do is treat you right, so hopefully you buy a car from me.